Hi, everyone. Hopefully, you are doing well. I am Neloise Denise, and welcome to When Life Happens. I am super excited on today to just share what I feel as though God has given me to share. So, for those who will be tuning in for the first time, as I stated before, I am Neloise Denise, and this is When Life Happens. When Life Happens is a platform that's been designed to inspire hope, to encourage, and to motivate you to move. MOVE, make obstacles victorious experiences. And how do you do that? You do that by sharing how God has brought you through a situation as God leads you to share. Because I always say your testimony could be the very key that helps unlock someone else's prison. So, with that being said, typically with when life happens, God gives me a topic from the word life. So it can range anywhere from lack to lust, from insecurities to intimidation, from fear to faith to fear, from ego to excuses. So there are a myriad of topics that God gives me to discuss on when life happens. And then there are those times when God just gives me something to share as it relates to something that I've been going through personally, that he has dropped in my spirit, or whatever the case may be. So with that being said, this is when life happens, and I'm super, super, super excited. So when I get on here, I never want anyone to think that I am the expert, but I am a willing vessel, and I will share as God gives me to share. So with that being said, I hope that you feel welcome on today. So I am going to today is going to be a more of a heart to heart, if I could just say it that way. Um, because I've just highlighted to you how God typically takes something from the word life, because life is hard. Life can be challenging. Life is filled with ups and downs. Life is full of, sometimes depending on who you are and where you are, it is filled with a lot of hardship, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain. And sometimes, it's filled with joys and things of that nature, because when life happens, it's not always a hard thing or a negative thing. There can be some good things, that can have an underlying hint of, some hard issues. Like, for instance, when you talk about the joys of life, there are promotions. There are those times when you get the promises of God, when God is fulfilling his promises in your life. He's blessing you just above and beyond. But then you have those people in your immediate circle who may be a little, who may change a little bit, there may be some hints of jealousy. There may be some other things going on, and the support that you thought you were going to get, and the praise you thought you were going to get when you finally got what God has for you, or you're finally doing what you feel like God's put in your heart. But the people who are the closest may not necessarily be in joy with you, or may not be so as happy for you as you thought they should have been. So joy, yeah, the blessings are there, but life happening could also just mean when you're in the blessed state, or when you're in the blessed phase, and God is just outpouring his blessings, and those you love may kind of falter, may kind of fall away. Again, when life happens, it doesn't always have to be a bad thing. It's just life happening. We learn, we grow, we change, we develop, we mature, we get stuck. And I have to admit that there have been times in my own life, even now, where I find myself stuck in a situation, and I have to get before God and allow God to minister to me. Because like I said earlier, I am not the expert, but I am a willing vessel, and I will get on here and talk about whatever it is that God has given me to share on that day. Because again, as I stated earlier, I truly believe that our testimony, whatever God allows us to share, could be the very key that helps unlock someone else's prison. Because people are out here hurting. At the end of the day, what this platform is about is to go in and help to encourage, to inspire, and to motivate individuals to become better, to do and be all that God has called them to do and be. And at the end of the day, if I can't direct you to the source, then I have done nothing, and this is for naught. The source is God. The source is Christ. And in order to be and accomplish all that he has for you, you're going to have to develop a relationship with him. No one can do it for you. That's a you and God situation. That's a you and God thing. And you're going to have to allow God to come in and minister to you. And so I can only direct you to the source. And even when I have my guests to come on here and they share their testimony, their highlight, their emphasis is that God gives them the ability, God gives them the grace to run this race. God gives them the grace to do what it is that they do. It's all about God, because at the end of the day, we are doing it for the audience of one. We are doing it for God because nothing else matters. God is not, we don't move him with the things that we do. He gives us the creative ability to do it. You know, when we are in alignment with him, we're able to do what he's called us to do. But a lot of times we find ourselves in situations where we're not doing, we are not becoming, we're not achieving all that God has for us to do because life has happened. So that brings me to today. And like I said, today is just really a heart to heart, because God has been dealing with me on some things. And, you know, when he brought it to my attention before, because I kind of talked about it before in a roundabout way. And, you know, I thought that was it. But obviously there's another level to it. And God is just peeling back the layers. And so a while ago, God mentioned, he told me that I had a fear of success. And I was like, what? Fear of success? Like, what in the world? What does that even mean? You know, and I just kind of been talking to God and just kind of trying to hear what it is, trying to unpack some things and just kind of see where I was and how was I, you know, what was my issue, fear of success. So a while back, I talked about exposure. When God talked to me, it was still the fear of success, but in that moment, it was just exposure. Like I had an issue with what success could do in terms of exposure, you know. And like I said earlier, it was about me. I'm comfortable right here, right? I'm comfortable doing when life happens from my home. But what if God wanted to put me out there on a larger platform? I kind of had an issue with that because that would create more exposure. And then with that exposure could be more responsibilities and so many other things, right? So as God dealt with me on that, I was like, okay, so when he brought it back to me again, I was like, huh? Like, what in the world? God, what are you saying? What do you mean? So obviously, success is based on each individual, however you define success for yourself. But I wasn't so much, I had to get to a place where I had to, one, admit that I do want to be successful, that I do want, when life happens, to reach those it's supposed to reach. I do want to write. I do want to do, there are so many things that I want to do. I do want my Zumba business to grow. These are the things that I do want. But at the end of the day, it's like I was afraid to admit, like, this is what I want. So the first thing I had to do was to take ownership of the fact that I want a successful business with Zumba, that I want my platform to reach all of those that it is supposed to reach. And whatever else God gives me to do, I want it to be successful. But for him, for his glory, it's not even about Neloise. It's not even about what I want. It's about for his glory. That's what all of this is about. Because like I said earlier, whatever I am doing, it needs to be as unto the Lord. And not only that, what are we doing? Like, is what we doing what God wants us to do, or are we just doing some good things? So we have to evaluate those things, and we have to look at those things and say, okay, God, now I know that this is a good thing. Is this really what you want me to do? Because at the end of the day, we're not trying to get to heaven and, you know, get there and be like, God be like, depart from me, you know, but God, I did this in your name. Did you? Like, are you doing what you're doing in his name? Are you doing what you're doing for his glory? Because at the end of the day, only what you do for God will last. And so with that being said, as God continued to deal with me, and I'm sitting here, and let me admit, I haven't fully unpacked it. I'm still unpacking it. That was the first part. I had to admit that, yes, I want to be successful in these areas, and it's okay. You know what I'm saying? It's okay. Yes, I want to please God, but pleasing God could put you in a space that you weren't even thinking about, that you didn't even expect, in a space where you have to reach the masses. And I say we, but let me just talk about me. And I'm sitting back here trying to be all timid and shy in certain areas and in certain instances. Let me say that as well. But I'm not even fully coming out. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even fully being everything, and it's not that I honestly, it's not that I was thinking that I was just not being out full-fledged. It was more so like, okay, God, I'm just doing what you're doing. And as it relates to the things of God, I'm doing it. But at the same time, it's like I'm holding back. Why? Why? Why are we holding back? Why are we afraid to be all of who God says that we are? Why am I holding back? Is it because I'm afraid to step on people's toes? At this point, baby, I'm just gonna have to smash them and say I'm not even, smash them and keep going. Because at the end of the day, am I being obedient to God? You know what I'm saying? It's like, am I afraid that I'm gonna say something that's gonna hurt someone's feelings? When did we get so concerned and so consumed about not saying what is true, not saying what God has told us to say, not speaking life over situations? When do we get to a point because we're more concerned about the feelings? And I'm not saying don't say anything in love, but we don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. We don't want to step on anyone's toes. We don't want to make it seem like we trying to take over and all these different things. But what about your obedience? And I'm saying you, but I'm really, me, like, Neloise, what about your obedience? These people are out here hurting. You say you here to inspire, you say you here to encourage, and you say you here to motivate, but you don't want to say it the way that God gave you to say it, or you don't want to, speak it in the tone, because in my head, I have to analyze tone, because people used to always say, Neloise, it's not what you say, it's how you say it, like it was a bad thing. People used to, you know what I'm saying? And I just, now granted, some stuff, I needed to work on, but at the end of the day, all right, as God continues to make and mold me and shape me, yes, there are certain situations and there are certain people, but then there are those moments where you have to be bold in what the Lord says. You have to be bold in terms of doing what he says do. You have to be bold. You have to be strong. You have to be courageous. And so I'm looking at me, and that's another thing. Don't get so consumed with looking at you and miss God. But I'm looking at me and how God is telling me where I fear. And I'm looking at this thing, and like I said, I haven't fully unpacked it. I'm just, as God gives it to me, right? So as he shows it to me. And so I've just been kind of unpacking this, and I'm just kind of thinking. And I can remember there was a situation that I was taking to God because I didn't understand it, and I wanted to know. Okay, God, like, what is happening? How do I maneuver past this? Like, do I need to approach this person? What is going on here? And so I ended up just kind of seeking God, just really getting before him. And I was asking him, because the situation was this. It was, I felt like someone wasn't seeing me, like they were looking past me and all these kinds of things. And I was like, God, I don't understand. Like, do I address this, or, and as I kept praying, as I kept seeking God, God helped me to understand that I could not be upset with someone who didn't see me when I didn't even see me. And I was like, wow, I can look in the mirror and see me, but do I see the Neloise that God has created me to be, that he's, do I see her? Do I see this woman that God has that he loves, that he comforts, that he adores, that he strengthens, that he encourages, that he pushes. Do I see her? Do I see the woman that he has fearfully and wonderfully made? Do I see this bold, courageous woman that he has created me to be? Do I see her? And honestly, there are days and there are times when I don't see her because life has taken a toll. And because life has taken a toll, somewhere my vision became bad in the sense that I could no longer see her. I could no longer see the person that God has created me to be. So I don't know where you are, and I don't know what you're going through, and I don't know what God is dealing with you on, but what I do know is that God is able to meet you at your point of need, and he's able to correct your vision for you. He's able to help you see yourself the way that he sees you. He's able to help you love yourself in such a way that you won't question whether or not he loves you. You won't question whether or not you are loved. You will be able to operate in the fullness and embrace the love that God has for you. Now, I know I'm talking about the fear of success, and I know that is where God has been dealing with me, but I have to uncover each of those layers. I have to uncover those things that's preventing me or causing me to be stuck in that situation where I am not seeing, or where I'm not doing, or where I'm not being all of who God says that I am. And we can no longer look to others to validate us. We have to allow God to validate us and be validated in him, and know that he loves us, and know that he wants what's best for us, and know that we can do all things through Christ, which strengthens us, and know that we're able, we're fearfully and wonderfully made, to know that we are blessed in the city and blessed in the field, blessed when we come and when we go. We have to know these things, not just talk these things. We have to live this thing out. So after me going through the whole not being able to see me, then it was about me being able to operate in my level, operate at my in full potential. And so what that looks like, obviously, is going to look different, and it's going to change over time. And that's what I think I was getting stuck in, thinking things would be the same. Don't get that part twisted. What I mean by that is I was thinking that I had to do things the same way, but I have to become comfortable and learn how to pivot, right? I have to learn how to pivot and move forward and change those things that I need to change, and stop being afraid of things. Because I used to say earlier on, "Oh, technology just get on my nerve." No, I can't look at it that way anymore. I have to be willing to get in here and learn more, continuously learn more about technology, continue to learn more about the avenues and strategies and ways to improve what it is that I'm doing. And the same for you. I don't know where you are, only you and God. But what I do know is that we can no longer hide behind the shadows of yesterday. We have to be willing to move forward in the things of God and do that which God has called us to do, and do it wholeheartedly. Do it without fear. Do it without shame. And just do it according to how God is leading and guiding and instructing us to do it. And the other thing, whether you get the applause from people or not, you have to know that you are being obedient to God. And when God has given you something to do, you move forward in obedience to him, because it's him you seek to please. It's him that you serve. It's him that you're wanting to get the approval from. And that's going to require your obedience. And be willing and obedient. Don't just be obedient and complain about it the whole time. Let's not do it that way. Be obedient, be willing and obedient, because according to his word, that's when we can eat the good of the land. But so The other thing that I'm currently kind of looking at the responsibility, fear of the responsibility that success may bring. Now, I do these 1 minute like inspirational things. And one time God had me to talk about stop hiding. And as I was talking about stop hiding, I ended up, just being how, fear of responsibility. Some of us try to hide from the responsibility that whatever their title or whatever it is may provide or create. And so and sometimes the task that God calls us to, is gonna put us in a position where we're afraid, where we question and we doubt ourselves. But that's where your faith is gonna kick in. That's where your belief is gonna kick in. That's where your trust in God is going to kick in, because he won't bring you to anything, because he's not going to bring you to something and not bring you through something. And so we just have to know without a shadow of a doubt that God is not going to leave me. He's not going to bring me here and drop me off. He's going to see you through whatever it is he brings you to. And so the responsibility of it all, you have to trust that God has equipped you to carry out the responsibilities of whatever it is that you're doing. And so, like I said, as I am continuing to unpack this fear of success, as I'm continuing to allow God to minister to me, to allow him to minister to my heart as it relates to this particular issue, I have to just hear what he says and move accordingly. I have to learn how to pivot. I have to learn how to just get me out of the way and admit to him, regardless of what it is, admit to him and take ownership of some things, and so that I can move forward. And so with that being said, that is kind of all that I have. And I will go over to the comments to see if there are any thoughts, questions, or concerns. And I want to encourage you to like, share, like my page, When Life Happens with Neloise Denise. Follow it, encourage others to follow it, those that you believe that it will bless. I do post different encouraging things, just different things. There are videos on there. There are older sessions from back in the day. I encourage you to go on and check them out. I encourage you to, just like and share. And I just, definitely appreciate those who tune in now, those who tune in at a later time. I truly appreciate you. And I just encourage you to just, again, be all that God has called you to be. Do everything that he is calling you to do. And be patient with yourself. Be patient with yourself, because as God continues to show you who you are in him, do not be afraid of what that may look like. Do not be afraid to be. Do not be afraid to do. And as I continue to unpack this fear of success, as I continue to unpack this, I just have to know that God is with me and he is for me. And when God is on my side, when it's me and God, we are the majority. And when he is with you, you have no need to fear. There's really no room for fear. So again, I hope that you have an amazing day. I do not see any questions or comments in the chat, but thank you again for tuning in. Have an amazing day.